Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. This is Jessie.
This is Angela.
And today we're going to be talking about being a sellout.
This is Hello Creatives from Hive magazine. Here are your hosts, Jessie and Angela.
We wanted to ask the question, what is a sellout and where did that term come from? And we also posed the question online to our readers via social media, and they had a lot to say on the subject.
Yeah, people got really hot and bothered by this, so we're going to be reading the comments on our Instagram and also on our Facebook. Selling out is a pejorative or a disparaging term that's often given to creative people when they compromise their morals or their authenticity to gain more mainstream success or commercial viability, such as
making money.
Exactly, making money. Angela, are you prostituting your passions for some pennies?
Oh my, so intense. Prostituting, that's where we have to go with this?
Apparently, because some people associate making some money, selling out, however you want to say it, with prostituting their morals and their views if it's not 100% coming from, I guess, a space of just creating.
And I think we also think of the term sellout often just implies to someone in a creative field, a musician, an actor, somebody that's in the spotlight, making a decision that monetarily benefits them. However, if you take that into modern day terms, don't we all do things to monetarily benefit ourselves?
Yeah, exactly.
I found an interesting point of view. We talked about before Jon Acuff, who wrote the book Quitter, about how he kept his day job, and we spoke about that in a previous episode. He had an interesting point of view. If someone calls you a sellout, do this, and this is from his website. He said, if someone ever calls you a sellout for making money from your dream, ask them how long they've been refusing a paycheck at work. Ask them if every 2 weeks they march into HR and hand back their salary. Ask them if they've canceled their direct deposit because being financially compensated cheapened their job somehow. Ask them if they refused their raise last year. Ask them if they blocked their bonus like an angry mutombo.
That's a great
Ask
word.
them if they've turned a cold shoulder to an unexpected sales commission in the hope of keeping their craft pure. Or just ignore them all and go back to doing work you care about. Your choice, really. Getting paid for your art means you get to keep making art. Sellout is a compliment.
Okay, so Jon Acuff considers it a compliment, and he's a very successful public speaker, has a successful blog, has written some awesome books. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we're going to do 180. I'm going to read a quote from a Slate article. When I heard Grizzly Bear in a Volkswagen commercial, it kind of bums me out, said Trent Reznor, a representative of arguably the last generation that worried about such things, in an interview with Vulture this week. Somewhere along the line, it became okay to get in bed with a sponsor. More specifically, it became okay for rock bands to talk about. When I started to hear musicians talking about their sponsorship deals as something to almost be proud of, it bothered me. Now, I love Trent Reznor. I've been a huge fan of Nine Inch Nails since I was 10 years old? But I think that's a little bit hypocritical to say, considering he gets sponsored by companies. He gets hired to do different things. I think he did the whole soundtrack for Gone Girl. What's the difference between him getting hired to create something for a movie and someone who is a band getting their music licensed out for a commercial? What do you think?
Yeah, and then the lines start to become very blurred. So
right.
What's the difference between a sponsorship and then being paid for work is what you're saying exactly.
Yeah, so now none of us can do anything unless we're independently wealthy, or else we're sellouts. So I can't do anything for money that's a passion of mine anyway.
Yeah, another thought earlier when we were talking about this, you made a good point about, you thought about Taylor Swift, how she started out in country.
Yeah, so is she a sellout? She was successful in her own right doing country music, and so as she grew older, she's not allowed to grow up and change her mind and change the way she wants to make music. So she can't do stuff with pop because she's a sellout now. Well, I think she's laughing, all the way to the bank, and she's doing whatever she wants. She's still writing her music.
The hypocritical viewpoint only comes to people that are in the spotlight. If you notice,
Right.
It's people that are actually doing stuff. And
It's true.
Isn't that interesting?
So if people are calling you a sellout, look at yourself real hard.
Maybe doing something right.
Yeah, because you're probably doing well enough for people to be like, oh my God, she's a sellout. He's a sellout. Look at them. So we thought this would be pretty interesting to ask our audience on social media what they thought. So we posed the question, what does it mean to be a sellout? And we also asked at the end, is it only thought of as a negative? Does it even matter? So we wanted to know what people thought, and they got pretty sassy.
I love it.
So let's start reading off some of these because we told them we were going to put them on the podcast. We opened Facebook, and we're going back, and there's a lot of really polarizing views in here. You can start.
Elon Ka said, making a choice.
Martin Badger said, if it gets you where you're going or makes more money, who cares? It's usually a critic that says it, though you will find out. Eileen Roddy says, agree that it is about choices. Choosing to create work that is authentic and risky and speaks to your experience and perceptions versus creating a product that appeals to a mass population. Some artists stumble upon a salable formula and they keep repeating the process because it sells. Are they successful? That depends on how you define success. For me, I would become bored and jaded. I can't easily fit into a homogeneous genre of art that pleases the public because it looks nice over their couch. I create what I create. If it moves someone enough to buy it, that's wonderful, but I am never going to depend on that for income. So I might as well create work that is authentic and pleases me, not the potential buyer. I don't project this philosophy on other artists, however. They follow their own value system. I don't judge them at all. The only circumstances that I object to is when an artist with a formulaic approach packages their product as full of deep meaning and significance. That rings hollow to me. If you're going to create work to please the buyer and only care about making the sale, then be upfront about it.
In reply to that, Kelsey McQuaid said, having a definitive style that is consistent with your brand is not selling out, and it takes more than stumbling to find. It is difficult to maintain quality and style while you grow and change, but I don't think any artist goes into it saying, I think I'll paint the same thing every day until someone likes and buys it.
That's true.
And if someone creates art with intention first to match it to a couch, they are likely selling it to an interior design agency who uses their work to stage and sell their designs, collaboration. I think artists work through the challenges of development until they find what works for them. And if the market also recognizes it and buys it, they have major success and continue to do what works for them. But don't think they don't make art for themselves. There is a market for everything. It's about finding your own and capitalizing on it without guilt from a societal narrative that artists should never have to buy into, quote, suffer for your art, quote, starving artists, quote, artists struggling. We have to have empathy for each other and build each other up, not perpetually blame people for finding success or assume they sold out or intentionally create work for its ability to be consumed just because the public is enjoying and buying their work. I like what she has to say.
Bravo.
And I also like, when I was thinking about that, I was thinking, but who cares if you're intentionally making art to sell and to make money off of it? Like, I think probably what happens to a lot of people is you start out, you have a following, people start having interest in it, and then you see what works and what doesn't work. Why does that make you a sellout if you're selling to people because they want to consume it? I mean, that's what every company does in the world. Like, the restaurant finds the hamburger that sells the most and they sell that one. It doesn't make them a sellout because they figured out which one to buy, which one to sell the most of.
It's a hard situation to be in. I think it's more about changing your values and maybe completely changing your whole aesthetic and why you got into something, maybe, because I understand what you're saying. Like, if you start off painting cats and you're known for painting cats the whole time, and then all of a sudden you change
to the dog whisperer.
You paint a dog just because you felt like painting the dog, and all of a sudden the dog picture is going nuts. You're probably gonna still be happy to be like, hey, people are paying more attention to this dog picture that I'm painting. Let me start painting dogs. Does that Does that make you a sellout? What if you feel like people are really responding to this? I can connect through people through this picture of a dog.
As Judge Judy would say, because I watch so much Judge Judy, you can't read somebody's mind, and that requires reading somebody's mind.
There you go.
Because now I'm going, is she painting the dog because she's just trying to sell and she's a sellout, or is it just because I felt like it and I wanted to do it and just so happens to be a great idea? You know, like, I can't go into someone's mind, and I don't have time to think about what other people's intentions are, so I don't really want to put so much time and effort onto that worry.
Yeah, and it goes to show you that the question itself, what does it mean to be a sellout, isn't something that you should be worried about people thinking about you, because it's something that other people are projecting upon other people, you know?
Absolutely.
There's artists probably not thinking, well, I'm definitely a sellout. I'm definitely this. I don't think anybody's going into creating anything considering themselves a sellout.
Yeah.
Renda Ryder says, sellout is a word that angry, unsuccessful people use to describe happy, successful people.
Love it.
He's a local successful artist that we have here, and he's traveling the world right now doing his world peace murals. We have highlighted him in Art Hive magazine, and he's stayed true to doing what he's always wanted to do for years, because we've known him and seen him for years working, and I bet people probably say things to him now that he's able to travel around the world doing what he wants to do.
Jennifer Chaparro said, usually the word is used by people who are jealous of another artist's success, chiming right on his coattails there.
Cynthia Coriel Hakadin says, I agree, Jennifer. And when a person uses that term, they have no clue what an artist goes through to get to that final product. That's just what you just said.
Mimi Botcheller said, you mean actually making money from your art? I am beginning to see that artists are some of the most judgmental people I meet. I admit I am somewhat of an art snob because I really do enjoy new experimental art experiences, which cost a lot. I do not care for 45-minute live art too much, yet I still respect the artist for whatever makes them think they are artists. Everyone is an artist these days. Is selling out teaching to be able to afford to make your art as you wish? Or need to make art to add to the pathetic paychecks our educators receive? I believe the starving artist is a myth that is perpetuated in fine art schools, and this is the only authentic art. An interesting topic for sure.
Yes, and that's coming from Mimi, who is a successful artist, and she is a former educator, college educator. Jessica Chesler says, at the beginning and end of the day, can you say that your work aligns with your personal values? That it's something you would have done whether or not you were paid? Or that it got you one step closer to accomplishing your goals and manifesting your vision? Yes? Then you're not a sellout. No? Then maybe you relate to the world in a purely transactional manner, and climbing a ladder or stacking cash is enough for you. Maybe there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe you look at your work and other people as a means to an end, and not an end itself. Maybe you are a sellout.
Made me think about like the artist Romero Brito and other artists that have commercial artwork, and then people coin them as a sellout because other people's making the art for them. But then, can't you say that about a fashion designer? If a fashion designer makes a piece of clothing once, and then it is manufactured by other people other than Calvin Klein's hands, are they then not also a sellout too?
I think it's a term that starts getting spread so thin that if you start applying it to one person, you could theoretically spread it to so many different people.
Which is what John Acuff was saying about the paycheck analogy, you know, for everyday people.
It's true. Like, so what do you call people who collaborate, like, with other companies or other creative people? You know, are you a sellout because you're wanting to work with other people? Like, if you look today on Instagram, there's probably a ton of different people that you follow, any of us follow. Maybe it's even you, who you see in their bio, it says to collaborate, email me, collaborate, DM me. You know, like, some people are probably wanting to collaborate because they want a sponsorship, they want a sponsored post, which is fine. Other people probably want to do stuff because they want to connect with other people and meet new people through Instagram. Do something creative.
I think it's also just the integrity that you have to live with at night. Like, if you're okay with making certain decisions for yourself and you can go to bed at night and you're happy, that's your life, and that's what you have to determine. Like, some people, you're never going to make everyone happy. You know, like, if you sell something, you're going to have to assume that probably 95% of the people are going to be happy with it, and there's going to be those 5% people that are probably unhappy with anything, anywhere. And you have to be okay with those people being unhappy is what I'm saying.
Right. I have to read this comment by John Hunt, who is our beloved contributor in the magazine, who writes an art journal column every issue. He says, the term sellout has negative connotations. I have heard it used to label and shame artists who cater to popular tastes or who work in a commercial capacity, i.e. illustration or graphic design. This implies that artists can only be creatively successful if shunned by the mainstream and struggle to make a living from their art, offering a bit of self-righteous comfort to those artists whose, quote, genius has not been recognized by the rabble. I love that. For many years, quote, serious artists considered Norman Rockwell to be a soulless hack whose imagery was too pedestrian to be taken seriously. What these artists did not realize is that the concepts for most of Rockwell's magazine covers were completely self-generated. He was an astute observer of the human condition, with the painting chops of an old master and narrative skills to match, that celebrated filmmakers like Orson Welles and Alfred Hitchcock. Many people also did not realize that Rockwell painted images to promote social justice in a time when it was not a politically safe or a popular thing to do. In my own mind, being popular doesn't necessarily equate with being a sellout. My definition of selling out is when an artist willfully gives up on their artistic vision to pursue something that they do not believe in or are morally opposed to for the sake of profit or popularity. Observing the current trends and marketing your work to an appropriate audience who is willing to pay you to create does not in it of itself make you a sellout, but it can certainly make you successful. Drop the mic, John Hunt. Steve Rollman says, essentially choosing money first over substance and authenticity. Granted, there are times when you gotta do what you gotta do. Ain't that the truth?
Craig McGinnis says, a case of perception is reality. Really. But when referring to a slip of business morals and standards of quality to garner success, fame, and glory and money, it does hold a negative connotation. When referring to the subtleties surrounding an artist's creative choices, like their style and their client base, the meaning gets blurry. As an artist and musician, the best retort I have heard from the negative slinging of the word sellout came from the Metallica camp. This is not a direct quote, but a sentiment I felt. Sellout? If you mean we sell out stadiums, then yes. Meat Boil says, molding to the fit of the fads with your skills for the potential chance of financial gain and or hastened exposure.
Mind's Eye Moments says sellout equals self-compromise.
John Wareham said, I don't get it. Yes, art is expression for yourself and for others, but it is also something to do to make money. But then when you do make money doing it, you're a sellout? Do you call Carmelo Anthony a sellout in the NBA because he makes a ton of money? Is filmmaker Michael Bay a sellout because he makes big budget movies that make money?
Bumblefest says, essentially choosing money first over substance and authenticity.
Mr. Beeston 281 said, selling out is giving up your artistic integrity for a quick buck. Cointrail said, selling out is the loss of creative integrity in exchange for financial gain. Most artists can't afford not to sell out, yet few actually will. Hence the starving artist stereotype. I sometimes wonder what percentage of artists starve as a matter of principle versus starve for fear of social reprisal.
Ooh, that was a good one. Cointrail.
So I guess we're left with the feeling of, based off all this, I feel like I could care less if somebody's a sellout.
Yeah.
I don't really care what you're doing. All I'm doing is focused in on what you should be, is focused in on yourself.
And I hope you make some money. Make that money.
Yes.
I mean, we're biased.
As long as you're not doing illegal acts, I think it's probably okay to do certain things, you know?
Yeah. I mean, if you're making money and you're happy, you're bringing happiness to other people.
What were you going to say that we're biased on?
I mean, we're biased because we're creative entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We definitely, we make a living from being creative. I think there's a fine line that you don't want to cross, that you're not going to do things just for money. I guess a perfect example of us trying to keep our integrity, in mind, is that obviously magazines are incredibly expensive to produce. If you don't know, it's very, very expensive. And we pay for the printing and pay for all these things with advertising. And we have said from the beginning, we are not going to put certain advertisements in our magazine that wouldn't flow with it, that would compromise the look and the feel, because, a magazine is, when you think about it, it's not a necessity. It's a luxury. It's an escape. It's still a form of escape. And when people are reading it and looking at it, they want to be entertained. And when they flip through the pages,
they don't want to see wooden teeth on sale. Get your wooden teeth discount.
You don't want to look at, an article about photography, and then you flip the page and it's an art fair, and maybe there's an ad on, oh, look, it's a Miami Book Fair. Cool, that has to do with it. And then you turn the next page and it's about Bobo's roofing. Yeah. Oh, Bobo has a sale on roofs. That's not, it breaks the feeling, So
yeah.
You and I have said from the beginning, maybe some advertisers are not the right fit for us, and we're going to have to pass on the money, just because that's how we feel, and we'd rather have more control over that. Because and that's another thing we haven't thought about. If you're a sellout, maybe if you're wondering if you're a sellout, if you feel like you're losing control of your work and the flow of the work and the direction of your work because you're conforming to other people's ideals, then maybe you have to stop and think, maybe it's not a good thing that I'm selling out.
Yes, and I can even speak about ourselves too on that as well. People give you opportunities. Not every opportunity is a necessity to prolong your career. And we've even spoken to book publishers before that wanted to collaborate with us on ideas. And of course we could have taken the idea
made it work.
But the idea started to become twisted and changed from the original idea, and we started to think, okay,
because they need to sell books.
Yes,
that's the bottom line.
Is this something that is important for us to really do at this time, and to put our time and our time and energy is valuable? Should we put into this? And we pass on the opportunity. Now,
maybe at another time down the road, there'll be another opportunity that'll be even better.
I feel like I would have thought in my mind that I was selling out on myself for doing that. Right. I would have been more upset, because as a creative, as an entrepreneur, you have to also remember that every opportunity doesn't need to be taken.
Right.
And that if it doesn't give you the longevity of where you see your business going, if it's not the appropriate thing, you shouldn't always take everything, And that's hard to do. That requires a lot of insight.
That requires you listening to the podcast about not quitting your day job.
Yes, yeah, and making smart choices for your future. And that's hard to do sometimes. You have to really weigh out the pros and the cons to see what's best. But even too, our magazine does not look anything like it did in the very beginning. Because
we were just trying to live.
Yeah, and in the beginning, we kind of even know what we were doing. You just kind of were putting stuff together. You're like, okay, I think this is what I like. I think this is how we want it to look. And it looked good enough that it could get to where we needed to. But I don't think we're a sellout, because now we're putting people that are prolific or successful in the magazine. I mean, though maybe somebody might say you're a sellout for doing that.
Yeah, because you guys put celebrities in the magazine and not
I don't see them
locals.
as celebrities. I see them as people that have reached a pivotal level of success that, in my opinion, is interesting. And we're not putting people in the magazine that are just hollow. They're doing entrepreneurship. They're multi-talented and multi-dimensional. I always find that very intriguing, because it's never just one thing that took them there. It's like these layers of, I did this and I did this and I met this person, and that's interesting to me. That's so interesting to my mind, because just because they're a celebrity doesn't mean that they're successful, any more successful than any other person. It's just I find it intriguing, their stories, and that's why I like to interview them.
Right. We curate people for our magazine that we think will give other people maybe a different perspective, give them some inspiration that, you can achieve your goals if you put your mind to it, I think at the end of the day, we just have to remember that we should be kind to each other because we don't know what that creative person did or had to do to get that end result and get that end product and what it means to them. And they're putting themselves out there for the world to criticize, to critique. Maybe if we don't have anything nice to say, just, smile and walk away. Don't have anything nice to say, smile and walk away. Is that a rhyme? Is that a nice rhyme?
It's a nice rhyme.
I'll probably forget it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, but it's true. And I think that no matter what our opinion is of other people and what they're doing, everyone has a different trajectory in their life. So how in the world are we supposed to look at them and say what they're doing is correct or not? And they'll figure it out on their own and, just focus on yourself. I think when we start to become hyper-focused in on our own problems and not worry about everybody else and whether or not they're sellout or why are they doing this and why are they doing that, that's a lot of energy and a lot of time wasted. And
how about worry about you?
Yes.
So, Angela, I think that pretty much wraps up this episode. I hope that we gave you all some different perspectives, different opinions, and we really want to thank everyone for interacting with us on social media. And sorry if we couldn't read all of them, but we love every one of you.
Or if we mispronounced your name.
We garbled, destroyed your usernames. We're so sorry.
Yeah. But and we're going to be doing more of these, so make sure to follow us on Art Hive Magazine.
On Facebook
and on Instagram.
@ArtHive_ magazine.
And the next time you want to label somebody as a sellout, look at yourself.
Oh, dang.
We'll leave it on that.
Are you prostituting yourself? Are you prostituting your passion? I just like saying prostitute. It's funny.
It's a fun word.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.